This is a really interesting time that we're living in. And I think people kind of gloss over the fact that it's a very different time than even 20 plus years ago. Post internet, when the internet really started to take hold, let's say mid to late 90s, people started to become familiar with, the availability of information on the internet and being able to connect with people they would have never been able to through regular life. It's a completely different environment in a lot of good ways and a lot of bad ways. One of the bad ways is that with the advent of the internet, with the advent of instant information, basically the dominant force there was mal and misinformation. Now, yes, there is a difference between malinformation and misinformation. The big thing, though, is when it comes to investment, stocks, crypto, silver, gold, other things, and I know many stockers don't consider, silver and gold, well, particularly silver, an investment. The big thing with that is that you got to get your information from somewhere. And when you think back to pre-internet, I mean, there were really only a few ways that you could get your, information. You either had to read about it, which again, we all know people don't like to read, or at least most people. You had to watch TV, watch a show, whatever. You had to listen to the radio, or you had to hear it directly from another person. But the fact that nowadays anybody can put up, any information instantly is kind of really a problem. And people don't really understand that. They don't understand that, they see the good part about it, which is, again, you can get instant access to whatever answers you need about whatever topic. Hey, you're changing a tire, you don't know how? You can instantly find out, 5,000 different videos to tell you how to do it. You don't know how to tie your tie? Great, there's 9,000 videos to tell you how to tie a Windsor knot. In the age of silver and gold, it's the same concept, but I think a lot of that is lost. And the main reason that, people don't realize that is because the narratives in the stacking community are all the same. I mean, there's so much of the same information getting parroted out there. Silver's going to the moon, it's going to be this, it's your protection against this. Yes, it can be. But again, think of how much more emphasis there is on getting your attention through hype and FOMO and things like that than actually delivering you like good information. Now, as far as like channels out there that, do a great job of kind of keeping it even keel, there's obviously Salivate Metal, T the Silver Stackers, very good about keeping it pretty topical as far as like, not getting too deep into the conspiracies or the FOMOs or anything like that, but more just, again, entertainment and education, which is part of his 3 pillars. Those kind of things are very interesting. But then you also have like, other channels like Silver Oceans that are, more educational about the finance side and, things to consider and concepts like that. It's all out there for you. But the thing is, when you look at the really big channels, now make no mistake, Sal's there. Sal's, a big channel. But I mean, the really big channels, it's a never-ending cycle of flipping back and forth between the FOMO and the fear, whereas all of them started at some point at, the same way that T is, or Silver Oceans, or, any of these other channels that deliver, pretty solid content. And it's interesting because, there is something there. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with people wanting to be compensated for their time that they put into creating their content. But it's another question about whether you're really doing a service to the community, but then also, I mean, new stackers, people that just, want to buy a little bullion, if they fall into that trap of fear and FOMO, they're obviously, as we've seen time and time again, the ones that are going to get burned. Now, one of the big things that's coming, right now, that's taking shape is the stock market is actually very close to recovering. People don't realize how much the market has recovered from the bottom, which was last September. I mean, it's a huge move back up to the upside. Now, the market's volatile. Anything can happen. Obviously, I'm not here giving you financial advice, but the key there is that things like that move very quickly, and the market will front run the actual, conditions that we see. One of the big things that we, last year, we're going to go into recession, we're going to go this and that. That's actually not taking shape. And again, there's so many people out there who are like, the economy's so bad. No, that's not true. The economy is not bad. Your personal situation or the situation around you may be terrible, but don't conflate that with the general environment. The economy is people spending money. Make that just, if you don't know anything about economics, just understand that. If people are spending money, that is economic activity. And there is no doubt that people are spending money hand over fist. Can it last? That's another question. Probably not. I mean, but again, that doesn't mean that it has to be a cataclysm. That doesn't mean that it has to be something crazy. That just means that, hey, the market has ebbs and flows, and, or the economy has ebbs and flows, and it's normal that we go to recession at some point. It doesn't have to be a 2008. It doesn't have to be a 1970 something. It doesn't have to be an early 90s. It can be a shallow dip in consumption. Again, these are concepts that most people don't understand. But the problem with most people not understanding is they feel that there's some type of inadequacy, associated with not understanding economics or finance or things like that. No, stop. That is, again, this is something that the stocking community needs to hear. There is no shame in saying that you don't understand something. There is absolutely no shame there. I can't build it. I'm not an architect. I don't know how to build a building. Could I probably nail some boards together and, try to make my way through it? Yeah, but it's not going to last. It's going to be a piece of crap. And it's going to fall apart. Same thing with, could I rebuild the inside of an engine? I mean, if I really tried to apply myself, maybe, but would I trust that engine to, last 100,000 miles? Hell no. Am I going to perform surgery on myself with what some guru, online told me? No. But that's the thing. One of the big problems in the stocking community is that they really make you feel like you need to understand something that really isn't in your wheelhouse. And people have a problem with that. People have a real problem with, not being able to admit that they don't understand that kind of stuff. Now, there is the other side of the coin, people who just, end up falling head over heels for charlatans because they don't understand, and because they're like, hey, I don't understand, do this for me, or hey, I'm going to take your word for it. That's something different, and that's also kind of sad, but I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. That's probably more the exception rather than the rule. Moving into this environment that we're in, silver and gold are falling while, again, the market is going up, and it is within a stone's throw of going back above the all-time highs. If that happens, again, it's going to be a hated rally by all the people who are sitting on the sidelines in cash, who've been FOMO'd out. Joe Biden's going to crash this, da-da-da. You can say whatever you want about Biden. I mean, again, it is what it is. Nobody's out there like, cheerleading for Joe Biden. And that's the funny part. Like, that's the difference between people who are like, oh, Donald Trump. Donald Trump needs that kind of reassurance, from his people, whereas Biden, I mean, he knows he's not the last choice as far as a winning recipe. However, the big thing is that when you look at the economic data, the data's fake. Well, if it's fake, it's always been fake. So it was fake under Trump too. So there's that. But let's just take it for what it is. Let's just say it's all fake, but there's some rhyme or reason to it. Economically, again, I mean, versus the other countries, we're doing very well. Even with inflation, which again, we've all felt inflation. Make no mistake, no one's making excuses for it. But what caused the inflation? Well, during 2020, we created more debt than in the history of the nation. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think that everything was going to just stay the same? No, there's a cost for doing that. But again, when you conflate all of these things to stupid politics or this and that, and you pick your side, which we all do, you lose the forest for the trees. I'm in silver because Joe Biden's going to crash the economy, and silver's going to go to the moon. No, it's not. It's absolutely not, and not for that reason. Again, I'm buying silver because, whatever the reason is. The bottom line is, it's particularly with silver, it's an industrial metal. Your bullion purchases don't affect, you can have the silver squeeze of the millennium. Bullion is a small fraction of what, the silver supply. So all of these different narratives that you've been fed are just ridiculous. But the worst thing about it is the fact that you can't admit to yourself that you don't understand it. And yet, this is, again, particular to things about finance. You wouldn't go and start performing surgery because you saw a YouTube video about it, but you would run your whole financial picture around something that you saw on YouTube. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy, because I mean, you're second to your health. Your financial situation is probably the next most important thing, right? Maybe family and stuff like that before that. So let's say third. But yet you can't admit that you're stuck on making bad decisions because you're absorbing the wrong information. We're all guilty of it at some time, but you know what? At some point, you got to make hard choices.